DaVinci Resolve 19 is out. There's new features and improvements in every single page. This video focuses on the color page. When you're done watching it, please make sure you watch our videos covering the other pages too. There are links in the description. So here's what's new. ColorSlice. This tool finally adds subtractive saturation natively to DaVinci Resolve. It's accessed using this button. It slices the image into 7 vectors: red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow, and a 7th vector for skin. There's separate controls for each. Here's a breakdown of how it works along with examples. This cool visualization shows you what part of the color wheel each slice will affect. The center control allows you to refine that slice. It doesn't allow you to change the width of a slice, nor does it allow you to create completely custom color slices. Instead, you can nudge a slice to the left or right. There's about 60 degrees of adjustment in either direction. Please note, adjusting the slice will adjust the boundaries of the adjacent slices too. That way the slices never overlap and there's never any gaps in their coverage. If you want to preview what parts of the image each slice will affect, click and hold on this button at the top. The preview only remains as long as you hold down on the mouse, but like with other tools, if you turn highlight mode on, the preview will persist. Then in that case, just click on other slices to change your view. You can think of each slice as being a qualifier that limits the effect of tools to just those colors. It's got a soft roll-off. The tool will have the most effect in the middle and the least effect at the edge of the slice. Subtractive saturation and density can be controlled independently for each vector. Subtractive saturation is prized because it mimics the way that film saturates. When I add it to the sky in this image using the blue vector controls, you'll notice the waveform decreases rather than increases. That's a telltale sign that the tool is performing subtractive saturation. In this instance, instead of increasing the amount of blue in the sky, the perceived saturation of the blue is increased by reducing the amount of red and green in the sky. Density is a tool for darkening the image, but unlike other tools like hue versus luminance that target colors based purely on their hue, density has the greatest effect on the most saturated colors. Hue will recolor the colors within a slice. Remember, this isn't changing the shape or position of this slice, it's affecting the colors within that slice. Finally, up the top, there's global density and saturation controls that affect the entire image. Density depth can be used to limit or increase the effect of the density slider on the brighter parts of the image. Saturation depth does a similar thing, but for saturation. Saturation balance adjusts how saturation changes affect the luminance balance in colors with medium saturation levels. And here's an example of all those settings working together. I'm keeping this real simple. I'll start with the skin vector. The preview button shows it's not quite capturing all of the skin, so I'll adjust the center. Sometimes it's hard to fully capture people's skin tones with this slice, but that is what other more complex tools like the qualifiers are for. I'm not planning on making any changes to the skin, but it's still worth configuring this as it helps to stop the yellow and red slices from affecting skin. See, this red density tool is no longer affecting the skin tone. Then let's add some subsat and some density to the sky. That will be the blue vector. And I'll use hue to push the sky towards a nice aqua cyan color. Awesome. This tool is still in beta. I'm looking forward to seeing how it compares to other DCTL-based vector tools like PixelTools' awesome Hue Shift DCTL. By the way, it's currently discounted. Details in the description. I think people have been wanting these tools to come to DaVinci Resolve for a long time, so you might have seen similar tools developed using DaVinci's DCTL scripting language. I love that these tools are now in Resolve natively, and I'm really excited to see what all those super talented DCTL creators out there develop next. I'm sure they will continue to innovate and push the bar. The Film Look Creator is a brand new OFX plugin in the Studio version. Just apply it to a node in the color page. It's a complete toolset for giving your footage a film look, and depending on where you place it in your node tree, you can apply it to single clips, groups of clips, or the entire timeline. Now, it doesn't emulate the look of a specific film stock. Instead, it emulates a generic film look. But it's fairly sophisticated because it doesn't just emulate the colors of film, it emulates the other artifacts associated with film too, like halation, grain, and gate weave. Let me show you some of its features. We're going to give an overview of everything, but focus more on features that require more explanation. The Color Settings tab allows you to fine-tune the exposure and balance of your look. Fade and highlight allow you to control the black and white levels of your look. White balance and tint are important tools when emulating film, as different stocks render warmer or cooler. That could be because they are tungsten or daylight balanced, or alternatively, if you're trying to make a faded archival look, you might want to pump extra warmth. Many of the tools have useful tooltips. For example, this one is telling me that the skin bias slider targets skin tones, making them warmer and darker or cooler and brighter. Naturally, as this is a film emulation tool, it uses subtractive saturation. What about richness? What's that? It's basically saturation contrast. It increases the difference in saturation between the most desaturated colors and the most saturated colors by selectively increasing the saturation of the most saturated colors. And of course, it uses subtractive saturation to do that. In other words, as there is only a finite amount of saturation an image can contain, this tool can give your image more perceived saturation. That's because in some instances, if everything in the image is supersaturated, then nothing feels supersaturated. It helps to have desaturated colors in the image as a reference. Moving on, bleach bypass adds contrast while simultaneously desaturating the image, emulating the bleach bypass photochemical process. You can learn more about that in our video linked above. Split tone allows you to drive complementary colors into the shadows and highlights of the image respectively. What's cool is that this effect rolls off as it approaches black and white, so it won't contaminate the blacks and whites in your image. Even though tools like vignette, halation, bloom, and grain are available elsewhere in Resolve, it's useful to have them in a single tool. It means you can build the entire look in a single node or with a single preset. Each tool contains checkboxes to enable or disable the effect. A film look doesn't need to be in your face. Depending on the camera, lenses, or stock used, an image might exhibit more or less film artifacts. For example, because 65mm film has so much resolution, it exhibits very little grain. That's reflected in the 65mm preset. On the other hand, 8mm is tiny, so not only is the grain cranked up, but softness is also added in this preset to emulate 8mm's poor resolution. Now the same is true of gate weave. We love this feature. Cheap film cameras have poor registration. That's the camera's ability to hold the film in the exact same place for every frame. Gate weave will simulate that by randomly moving your image from frame to frame. On the other hand, expensive motion picture cameras have excellent registration, producing a rock-solid image. And finally, film gate. This can be used to emulate the appearance of an open gate scan. That's when they scan film to include the edges of the frame. I particularly appreciate the accuracy of the presets. For example, 35mm silent has the correct aspect ratio for 4perf 35mm film. The corners are rounded and the edges are softened. I like to add a little padding so it sits in the middle of the frame. To show you how powerful this tool is, here's 4 quick looks. For each look, I'll start with a preset and then modify to taste. First, let's make an old newsreel look. I'll use the nostalgic preset as a starting point, lower exposure, add contrast, and strip out all of the saturation. This preset already has lots of grain, flicker, and gate weave added. If I'm being really picky, I'll change the film gate from silent to academy, as newsreels would have had sound. Moving on, bleach bypass. I'll use the bleach bypass preset as a starting point. Again, I'll lower exposure and add contrast. I'd like to emulate a modern bleach bypass look, so I'm going to remove the vignette, gate weave, and flicker. What about teal and orange? Let's use the cinematic preset as our starting point. As you can see, split tone is pre-configured. As I turn it off and on, you can see it's pushing warmth into the highlights and coolness into the shadows. I only want the color effect though. I don't want any of the grain, halation, gate weave, and so on. So up the top, this effect slider gives me a single control for all the spatial effects applied to this image. What about this guy? The 3D LUT compatible checkbox is designed to make the Film Look creator easier to use when creating LUTs. It does something very similar to the effects slider. It turns off all the spatial effects, but this also turns off the film gate. So this isn't what it's designed for, but it's a nice, easy way of cleaning up my quick teal and orange look. It's going to turn off all of the spatial effects. And finally, a Super 8 look. I'll use the default 35mm preset, select the Super 8 film gate preset, increase the padding, and then select the 8mm grain preset and really crank it up. That looks pretty good. Here's all 4 looks together. Check out the variety of looks we've produced in just a handful of clicks.
Before we continue, we have something special to tell you. If you're considering making the move to DaVinci Resolve, there's never been a better time. We're thrilled to launch our brand new course, DaVinci Resolve for Editors. It's primarily aimed at those who already have experience in programs like Premiere Pro, but are looking to transition to Resolve. But if you are a frequent viewer of our channel, you know that whenever we tackle a topic, we do it thoroughly in a manner that doesn't leave anyone behind. Therefore, we think you'll love this course, even if you're new to editing. YouTube is full of amazing trainers and incredible videos. But when you're piecing together your education 10 minutes at a time, you don't know what you're missing, and it's easy to get lost. Let us be your guide. We get straight into Resolve, demonstrating features and workflows as we build out a short documentary together. There's 9 hours of training spread over 52 lessons. It covers the media, edit, color, fairlight, and deliver page. And the course comes with 2 hours of practice media for you to follow along as you learn. We're offering a launch discount for a limited time. Follow the link in the description to learn more. Enjoy the rest of the video, and thanks for listening.
Ultra noise reduction is a new spatial noise reduction mode. Remember, spatial noise reduction is great for images with lots of movement. Again, this is a studio-only feature as it uses DaVinci's neural engine. And I'm so sorry, but I feel like I'm saying the word spatial a lot. Now, to show you how good it is, let me show you the current state of spatial noise reduction. The faster mode gets rid of the noise but badly degrades the image. Better is much less damaging to the image but still leaves noise patterns. It's a similar story with enhanced. In this instance, none of the 3 spatial noise reduction modes have produced a satisfactory result. Let's look at ultra noise reduction now. Instead of manually manipulating the sliders, just hit Analyze, and Resolve will automatically position this patch on a flat part of the image where it's easy to read the noise, and it will dial in the appropriate amount of luma and chroma noise reduction. Wow, what a huge difference. Now, I'm not getting real-time playback on my M1 Max, so you'll need to cache, get a more powerful computer, or perhaps Blackmagic will optimize this further in the future. Moving on. Node stacks. Node stacks are all about organization. They will allow you to split your clip grade into more than one node graph. Head to Project Settings, General, and set the number of stacked node graphs that you would like. You can also name them. Whereas before all my clip grades had to live in a single node graph, now they can be spread between up to 4, at the time of release, node graphs. This is useful for compartmentalizing your color grade. It's especially useful for colorists who work with large, complex node trees. I could now place technical tasks like input transforms and noise reduction in L1, my base grade in L2, and trim passes for delivering in different color spaces into L3. Those node graphs are processed sequentially, one after the other. In some instances, it now makes it easier to copy grades between different clips. For example, if my input transforms, base grade, and display trims were all built in the same clip node graph, and I wanted to copy the display trim, and just the display trim, from one clip to another, it's difficult because Resolve only allows me to copy entire node graphs or single nodes. In the background, I've been building a pretend display trim node tree, just for the sake of demonstrating. I've built it in L3, or the 3rd clip node graph. I'll make a still from this grade, name it, head to another clip, and instead of applying the entire grade, I'll apply just the active layer. Check it out, it's not overwritten the other grades I've created in the other node graph layers. This will of course work similarly with other methods for copying grades between clips. DeFocus Background is another new studio-only plugin that helps you to blur the background in shots where the depth of field was just too deep. I will apply the effect to a new node. Similar to other effects, it needs to be fed a mask so it knows which parts of the image to blur. You could use Depth Map. I'm going to use the Magic Mask Object Tracker though, as I think it offers a better result. This can be fed from a different node into the node's mask input, or you can build the magic mask on the same node. I think that's going to be easier in most scenarios. Now, Resolve already had excellent Gaussian and lens blur effects, but those tools include the foreground with the background when blurring the image. As a result, you'll get a halo effect around the subject, something like this, essentially the foreground being blurred into the background, like shown here for reference. The DeFocus background effect fixes that. It works with the mask to work out which parts of the image to include in the defocus effect. In essence, it rebuilds just enough of the image behind the foreground object to include in the blur. And once the magic mask is tracked in, it gives really pleasing results with very minimal effort. This track was simple though, Others might require more work. And finally, here's a collection of small quality of life improvements. Double-clicking on a compound node in your node graph will now open it. It never did before. You can now clean up more than one node tree at a time, select more than one clip, and then right-click in the node graph viewer and select Clean up selected node graphs. Fujifilm Log and Log 2 is now supported in color management. The RGB mixer panel now features a button for each color channel to keep that channel balanced or normalized as you make adjustments. This is different from LumaMix, which maintains overall luminance levels as you shift color channels. This tool facilitates more focused channel adjustments while maintaining the image's relative balance. Well, those are just some of the new features on the color page. There's loads of new features in the other pages too. If you'd like to learn more about the new editing, audio, and fusion features in DaVinci Resolve 19, watch our other videos. There's links in the description. And just a quick note, this video was made with the beta, so don't be surprised if there are minor differences with the latest version when you install it on your computer. DaVinci Resolve 19 is available right now. Download it from blackmagicdesign.com. And don't forget, if you're looking to become more proficient in Resolve, particularly with editing, accelerate your journey. Let us be your guide. Check out our brand new DaVinci Resolve for Editors course. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and make sure you subscribed, and go watch one of our 5 other videos about DaVinci Resolve 19. Links are in the description and on screen. Thanks for watching.